far, far more pressing breaking news is that the Cowboys will, in fact, put the franchise tag on Tony Pollard. Franchise tag is at $10.09 million for running backs in 2023. And I can't say I'm surprised by this. I know Steven last week, I want to say, goes, look, we're not afraid of the franchise tag. We'll probably use the franchise tag again. And everyone's like, okay, that's about Tony Pollard. And then Jerry came out and goes, oh, you never know. Maybe it's not for Tony Pollard. Maybe we're going to do something else. But when it comes down to it, they are franchise tagging Tony Pollard, and people are already split about it.
What is there to be split about? You have a running back that is really good. You have a running back that was averaging 5.2 yards per carry last year. And I do believe, let me confirm this, 6.7 yards per target. So that's pretty good. And then 5.9 yards per touch. So anytime he touched the ball, he was getting you about 6 yards. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And do I expect the same thing when he's a featured running back? Kind of. I mean, I do expect him to be able to pick up big-time yards and to continue to do that because he is a fast player that hits the hole and gets beyond the hole quickly. So the dude broke 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. Obviously, he was behind Zeke, and nobody really would think otherwise, but he has progressively gotten better over his career.
Agreed.
I'm concerned about his injury.
Fair.
I also understand people that are like, just draft the next running back. Well, you can't predict that. You really can't. You could hope that you're going to get a running back in the draft, but you let him go, and what are you going to end up doing in the draft? Reaching to get a running back, probably. Sure. This draft is very deep with running backs. That is a good thing. There are good possibilities.
You want a chain?
Of finding his replacement in this draft. But here's what I'm okay with this year. Saying, hey, it's $10 million to you. I'm moving on from Dalton Schultz. I have his replacement. Guess what? Next year, we might have your replacement, but we're going to get everything we can out of you this season. Now, if he gets hurt, isn't that going to blow up in the Cowboys' face? Everybody's going to be like, you idiots, y'all paid $10 million to a guy that got hurt.
No, you're right about that. Now, people are split. I'll try to read as many of these as possible and see if we can get one direction or another. From the 361, you don't pay the running back. From the 432, they should have let Pollard walk. From the 972,
is it you don't pay the running back, or you don't give the running back a second contract?
That is a great question, because that's where I am. I do not have a problem with paying a running back in what they know and what the team knows is a one-off situation. You have made, I hope, no future promises to Tony Pollard. Now, can I rule out that the Dallas Cowboys said, if you come back healthy and do what you did last year and take it to the next level, then we'll give you your 5-year, $75 million deal? I cannot promise that, and that's why I might say bad words on air. But let's go off of face value. The issue with the Zeke contract when he got it was 6 years, $90 million at a time when he was still under contract for 2 years. And why did that end up hurting you so much? It hurts you so much because you know what Zeke's cap hit was this past year? It's $18 million. You know that's essentially the same as Dak's cap hit this year?
Are you serious?
Just think about that for a second. When people get on the Dak contract, you haven't even, I know Dak's is like a little bit more. You haven't even really seen that kick in till this upcoming season. So everyone was ranting and raving about Dak's deal. You paid your running back. You took a cap hit of $18 million for the clearly inferior running back this year. So let's focus on that. And guess what? What's his cap hit next year? $16 million. And you know what everyone's going to say? Well, if you just give him a pay cut or you just cut him, the cap hit goes way down. That's great. Let's examine that. If you cut Zeke now, your dead cap is $12 million. I know what the Cowboys like to do. They post June 1st it and rock on. So then it'll only be $6 million. Well, guess what? That other $6 million doesn't go away. You just take the cap hit for it in 2024. So what I'm saying to you is, for the last year, if you cut Zeke, he cost you $30 million. Mm-hmm. That's a fact on your cap. And that's why those things are problematic. For Tony Pollard, at least it's 1 year. If it doesn't work, you're not screwed going forward like you were with Zeke.
Do can you explain this part to me?
Sure.
Right now I'm looking at over the cap and by position. And it says total guaranteed 0, fully guaranteed 0.
For Pollard?
For Pollard.
Okay.
Why? Like, isn't the $10 million guaranteed?
Yes,
for
it
this
is.
year?
I don't but he hasn't signed it yet.
Okay.
So it's as
Maybe
soon
that's
as
what it
you
was.
sign it, and that's the other thing about the franchise tag. We talked about this last week. You can't fudge the numbers with a franchise tag, right? Like the number that Pollard counts is $10.09 million. That's not going to change. With Zeke, like for example, when you did the 6 for 90, his cap hit the first year was $6 million. Because like you took his existing contract, you blended some of this in, and then you can move the numbers around however you see fit. But with this, it's $10.09 million. That's what it's going to be, assuming he signs it. Which again, considering his injury, I assume he will sign it.
From the 432. Way to make it worse, Kevin. Now we have to wait for Dak's bigger cap hit.
I didn't make the deal. I have offered my services as a Dallas Cowboys capologist, and maybe I need to tell Steven that directly. I think I could do a good job for them.
So there are a couple of things I would like to lay into here, Kevin. One, you had 2 playmakers on this offense last year.
Sure.
And it was CeeDee Lamb and it was Tony Pollard.
I agree.
And when Tony Pollard got injured in that game specifically,
You were cooked.
you were done. The Niners had you. They were like, all right, we can take care of this. Dak isn't good enough to beat us in the air. They need both of these things to balance out. Otherwise, they're not good enough. That's a reality. The Cowboys understand that. Their reality is that Dak is not good enough to be the guy that just says, we're going to air it out, and that's how we're going to win this football. He's not Mahomes. He's not what Aaron Rodgers used to be.
Burrow
they know
yeah.
that. So they're trying to build a good team around him. When you look at the contracts, Christian McCaffrey, he's in the $16 million range. But it's $64 million on the entirety of his contract.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara, $75 million on his contract. And that looks like it's going to be
Yeah,
tough.
that's looking worse than the
Now,
McCaffrey.
unfortunately, Ezekiel Elliott's at that $90 million, but it's $15 a year. Dalvin Cook, $63, $12 a year. Derrick Henry, $50, $12 a year. So
And they're shopping him,
that's
apparently.
like the going rate. And you got your running back, who's probably going to be your lead back for $10 million for this 1 year. Now, where are the other monies spent, Kevin? The other monies are spent on wide receivers.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill's averaging $30 million a year. DeAndre Hopkins, 28. Cooper Kupp, 26. DeAndre Hopkins, 27 too. Devontae Adams, 28. I'm working down to the $10 million range, Kevin. Tyler Boyd, Devontae Parker, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Russell Gage. Y'all would all agree that you would rather have Tony Pollard as your second playmaker than one of those guys.
1,000,000%. I would take Tony Pollard over at least one of those running backs as well, because I get like the money is different for the running backs. I hope everyone can agree this is better than the long-term deal, because I saw some
There can be some bad things.
Yes.
But it's for 1 year.
And so here we go. I read you a few ones that were not super positive. From the 940, we need Pollard. From the 214, yay. From the 469, let him go. Never pay a running back. From the 940, like it better than being stuck long term. From the 214, nay, cut Zeke, pay Pollard. And from the 940, give Pollard a 3-year deal. Now, the issue with that is I saw somebody say Pollard should have taken a 3-year, $15 million deal. Wow. That makes literally no sense for Tony Pollard. Because what's the outcome of that? You can get the franchise tag. You know you can get the franchise tag. And that's 1 year, $10 million. I know it's 10.09, but for the sake of this, let's just say $10 million. That means you're signing 2 additional years of like what's pretty much going to be left of your prime for $5 million. That is a bad idea for Tony Pollard. And for people saying, well, he's coming off injury. Well, that's why he's going to sign this franchise tag. I know normally running backs don't love the franchise tag. Maybe people in general don't love it, but running backs especially don't love the franchise tag. Well, if you're Tony Pollard, you take this $10 million, more than you've made in the rest of your career combined, show that you're back from injury, and then you can go to the pay window.
I am perfectly fine with the franchise tag the guy for 1 year and draft potential replacement. That way you get the opportunity to work that guy in. I don't know where Zeke's. I don't know what's going to go on with Zeke. Well, actually, that is going to pop up here in one of the at 12:20 probably. But I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen there. But you want to continue to add young players to your team anyway, but do I want to go into this season with a third, fourth round running back as my starter? I don't know yet, and I can't guarantee that I'm not going to find a player in the third or fourth round that I'm going to like more and say, man, I have to take this player, but I can't because I let my running back go.
Look, as much as I love Devon A-Chain, but like that might not be the guy that's going to be your bellwether back, and neither is Malik Davis, and quite frankly, neither is Ezekiel Elliott to an effective point of view. I don't have an issue with it. I do want to point out, I understand everybody who does, because the Cowboys have gotten burned by paying a running back, because Tony Pollard is coming off an injury, or quite frankly, I see people who are like, Zeke's still the guy. I disagree a lot with that third one compared to the first 2 points, but I think this was always going to be the outcome for Tony Pollard.
Doesn't it also kind of seem like if they had let him go and then the Cowboys do bad, that the Cowboys fans, this base would be like, see, you just let another talented playmaker go for nothing.
And I think
you screwed yourself. Y'all don't have enough talent. They're keeping and retaining talent. Now, I know you're still ticked off about Amari Cooper. I get it. I totally understand that part of it. But again, that's another thing that is something the Cowboys just kind of say you have to deal with.
I think you make a really savvy point, because from the 214, and I see a couple people saying this, you got a playmaker for $10 million. And from the 504, Michael Lombardi said, you're not signing a running back, you sign a weapon. And if you're telling me you get an offensive weapon for $10 million, then I'm stoked about that. And from the 972, I just don't think you can say this. Malik Davis is literally Pollard with better evasion. That could be the case. I will point out that could absolutely be the case. I don't want to put a ceiling on Malik Davis, but you don't know that. Like, you have nothing in an NFL game to base that on. And everybody who I see, A-Chain, I hear you there. I do. I just wonder if he's going to end up being a complimentary back in his NFL career. And I know there's probably still some people who think that about Tony Pollard. So maybe that's why they don't like the number either. Me, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, this is part of the move that gets you to the next place. I don't think this is the thing that says you're going to the Super Bowl. And that's what everybody's like, well, we need guarantees that we're going to the Super Bowl here. Hopefully you're building a winner. That's all you're trying to do is build a winner, and the Cowboys kept one. How do they do in the draft? I will judge all of these things whenever they get ready to start. We'll look at their roster and go, okay, did we have a good offseason? And then we'll go from there. Right now, I'm fine with this move. I don't love it.
But you're fine with it?
Because of the Zeke contract that you're still having to deal with. I don't love it, but I'm fine with this move, especially considering what you're doing in the draft. The Cowboys like to fill holes on their roster. That way they aren't forced to draft a certain way. That's what Will McClay likes to do. I want to make sure my roster's pretty good. That way I can draft the best player available according to need.
And then Mike told us that we're going to trade for DeAndre Hopkins and sign Bobby Wagner. So this is just part of
Super Bowl right there.
Then I think I'll be with you.